You're absolutely right. This is exactly what I would do for hours.
So satisfying.
For absolute hours.
It's a very expensive fidget spinner.
You're like a sleep engineer.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? All right, so we have a bit of a nostalgia trip here for you. It's not really from a brand that you might be familiar with. It's kind of a new brand, but it's a form factor that is a throwback to some old school tech. This is the Functionality Tech, or the FX Tec Pro1. Now this is going to be one of those products that really tries to tap into your nerd sensibilities. The Pro1 is actually Pro with the power of 1, not just Pro 1. And then when you take a look at the phone itself, clearly this is something that is a throwback to all of the keyboard smartphones that we had back in the day. Before you even slide that screen over to reveal the keyboard, the phone itself is pretty conventional. It's all black everything. You have a nice big screen at 5.99 inches, a 6-inch screen at full HD plus resolution. It is an AMOLED, so it does provide some pretty good looking colors, and it helps render Android Pie pretty well. Now, one thing I do want to mention real quick, the software that is on this is still very early stages. So you might see some bugs, or you might see some things happening with the software while I'm using the phone in this video. Just remember that it's not going to be that way for the final product, which is due out in July. There are a few things to keep in mind about the internals, however. The processor is the Snapdragon 835. After all, when the phone was first conceptualized, it was at that time that the Snapdragon 835 was available. So you're not going to be getting the top of the line specifications, but the Snapdragon 835 will be more than enough for a phone that is basically geared towards those who want high productivity. There's 6 GB of RAM with 128 GB of onboard storage, and you have dual cameras on the rear. You have a 12 megapixel sensor, which is the same one that actually comes on the Pixel, the Sony IMX363, and then a 5 megapixel depth sensor for better focus. And finally, the battery is 3200 mAh and can be charged with Quick Charge 3.0. You still get all of the major ports on here, including the USB-C port for charging and whatnot, but you still have a headphone jack on the opposite side. All right, I know you're already looking at the phone. You want to see the actual mechanism in play. It is a slide that also allows the screen to come up at a certain degree angle. That way, when you have it on a table, you can actually view things on there. And that got me thinking. There are always going to be these reviews where I talk about who these phones are for, and one of the main users that I thought about was the kind of person that wants to be distracted. Obviously, this phone is best for productivity users. You have a full QWERTY keyboard on here, 5 rows, including a number row at the top that is a little bit shrunken down so that you don't press the screen when you're trying to hit those buttons. The spacing is just right, and there is a satisfying little press to every single button on here. It's something that I might want to put up against the BlackBerry Key 2, for example, which is an example of a keyboard smartphone that I still use pretty frequently. There are some extra buttons on the QWERTY keyboard, including 2 shift buttons and 2 control buttons, and then there is the FX button that is available there, which will help you get back to the home screen. It works as a home button when you have it in landscape mode using the keyboard. But the Pro1 can actually be used in plenty of other situations. I mean, that keyboard will probably be great for gaming. Just throw a few emulators on here, map all of those keys in the emulator, and you'll be able to play some classic games. I know that I would probably want to get a DS emulator or an SNES emulator on here pretty much immediately. And then I realized, since the screen angles up a little bit so you can view it while sitting down at a table, this is also one of those phones that you can replace something like my Galaxy S10 that has a pop socket on it and put it on a table while you're eating your lunch, having a cup of tea, or you just want to be able to watch something in some of those situations where you might be somewhere alone. Back in the day when we had keyboards like this on phones, I won't even just say smartphones, but just on phones, they were mainly going to be for emails and for texting. That's definitely going to be the case with the Functionality Tec Pro1. But because we're in a completely new age of smartphones now, this kind of form factor could actually be used for many more applications, including gaming, including media consumption, and I think that the Pro1 could actually be one of those sleeper hits. And of course, if you're one of those people who wants a fidget toy of some sort, well, this phone could fit the bill, because just sliding that screen back and forth is a very satisfying thing to do. The FX Tec Pro1 is available for pre-sale right now and will begin shipping in July for the price of $649. That's not really a bad price, especially for a form factor that is making a return like this one. In any case, you can stay tuned to my channel for even more, maybe a review of this particular phone. You know how I like my throwbacks and I like my keyboards, so I'm excited to see what this phone could do once I get a review unit. Stay tuned for that and even more. Don't forget to drop some likes on these videos, get into the comment sections and tell me what you think about this particular device and anything else else that I covered here at MWC 2019. After that, again, remember to subscribe to the channel and consider hitting that bell over on the side so you can keep up with everything I'm up to. For now, I'm just going to call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll just remind you to enjoy your tea, everybody.